Hi, my name is KalaiahGilley, and I am from Millard Middle School. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, mostly 7th and 8th this year. In math, kids get tired of getting worksheets and then practicing just drill and practice, so I wanted to do something to make my class more interesting and to bring in technology. So my grant was I got 4 Chromebooks, and I have really good principals, so they went in with this grant and purchased a classroom set for me, and it came in handy. Stand over here. The goal was to use these Chromebooks to help with a slope project that I was doing, because before we were having to use 2 or 3 different technology pieces to bring in this project, and now the Chromebooks allow me to just use that one piece of technology to bring that whole project together. Now, I've done lots of other things, but that was my main focus when I wanted these Chromebooks. It was implemented this year. They came in later than what we expected, so it pushed my timeline back a little bit, but we were still able to do it, so it still was productive. My strategy was to take these Chromebooks and increase project-based learning so that my classroom would be more student-led instead of teacher-led. And through that, my students were able to understand better, their comprehension increased, and their interest in the mathematical concepts increased. They were used on the slope projects to access Google Classroom. In my honors algebra class, we did a flipped classroom for a few units this year, and so those students use Google Classroom a lot. We also use Kahoot, MobyMax, Quizlet Live, and our school used them through our map testing. Here are some students, and they are doing my project on slope. What they did, they took pictures of real objects around our school. Some took pictures of structures of our building. These students are actually doing the Dr. Pepper here for undefined slope. They're taking a picture of it. Then once they have a picture, they had to identify a positive, a negative, undefined, and a zero slope. They transferred those pictures onto graph paper using the Chromebooks. They used Open Smart Notebook, or they transferred an image of a grid. Then they uploaded those pictures onto that grid, and from there they were able to find the slope of that. They wrote the equation, and they identified the y-intercept. So it put in what we were doing into the classroom into real life, because now slope wasn't just something that they saw in their algebra class. When they went out and they looked, they could say, okay, those beams right there are a negative slope. I did that on my project. So hopefully when they get tested on the K-Prep, they will remember that, and it'll help increase their scores. Here are some students with the finished projects. Their group project, here they did the power pole out back, a slide on the playground, a rail going up on the steps, a bench outside. That's what they chose. Those are just some of my students who completed the project. Here are some more. And here's a student talking about a project. I don't know if it'll...
This one project focuses on technology. We use Chromebooks to take pictures of those pictures on that. So you can see how the objects and features are respecting these guys.
She explained a little bit more. I think it was hard to hear, but she explained how not only did they find those things, and that helped her to remember how to find slope and y-intercept, but I also had them write out the steps. So part of their project was a written part, and that helped with their English teachers in the IDLE document. If you are doing that, it helped tie all that together. So they also had to write those steps, and that just gave them a more in-depth understanding of how to do that, because I know as a kid I understood it, but when I taught it, it was a whole lot different understanding. So those projects also did that. Here are some of my 8th grade honors kids who are working in Google Classroom. If for some reason the internet messed up, or they couldn't watch the flipped classroom, when they came into class the next day, before they could do the assignment, they had to watch the videos. So some of them were watching the videos, taking notes, and he was working on an actual project. They would have entrance slips so that I could check and make sure that they understood the notes. So they were doing the entrance slips so that they could get into class through the Google Classroom. We also used them for Kahoot. Kids love Kahoot. It's a fun way to review. We mostly used it to review concepts. My 7th and 8th grade students both did this. It was good competition and independent practice. We also used MobyMax if they were finished with an assignment early. Instead of just giving them more worksheets or something like that, I either have them go around and help other students, or they can do independent practice through MobyMax. We also use it for Quizlet Live. My kids like this. I like it better than Kahoot, because Kahoot, they're more driven of who can do it faster and trying to guess just so they can get on the leaderboard. On this one, though, they have to work together. It takes them a little bit longer, and they are more likely to teach one another. So I like Quizlet Live better. The kids like both of them. It just depends on what I'm wanting them to learn that day. And all those kids are working on Quizlet. This is a student talking about Quizlet, but we'll skip it. All right, this was the student growth that I saw through my grant, through using these Chromebooks. I used my slope project because that was my focus with these Chromebooks. And I tested the kids. I did a pre-test, and that's what's here in green. This class is higher because it's my algebra class. So they're the honors kids. That's why it's starting out higher. But even with the honors kids, they still had an improvement after using the Chromebooks to do this project. This is my regular education class. I only have 2 groups of 8th graders, so that's the only data that I used, even though I used the Chromebooks with the other 7th and 6th graders. But they started at 65%, and after the projects, they went to 87%. So I hope that trend continues through testing here in a few weeks. Successful outcomes. Students, they love to use the Chromebooks. They ask on a daily basis, do we get to use the Chromebooks today? So that part was good. They were increased their interest. They learned, they practiced and reviewed mathematical concepts. They've gained better understandings through the Quizlets and the Kahoots. And mostly, that was the tool I used, but I think that they gained a better understanding because they were helping each other. They were teaching one another instead of me just doing the traditional standing up in class and teaching them. Their assessment scores did go up, and their MAP scores went up, which was good too. I didn't put that on there, but they did. My classroom instruction is more student-led now, which is very hard to do. But I think that I will see gains from allowing the students to do more of the work than me standing up there. I think they are learning more, so that's a big one. And we have increased project-based learning. So the Chromebooks, it was a success. That's it.